Hey, good evening. Welcome to another nightly nonsense. Hey, we're going to get ready to get started in just a minute. You know the drill. I sit here and ramble while you invite your friends and family to watch, and Timothy gives me the okay to get started. We got some exciting news to tell you tonight. If you haven't read our pages, well, then you're in for a surprise. If you have, then I'll give you some of the details about that as we go through the night. We're thankful for what God is doing, the opportunities that He is giving us, and we want to share that with you, not just as information, but so that you can pray that God will continue to bless us with some pretty unique opportunities. One of the things that we're looking forward to is being able to introduce people to you. And so we're looking forward to that as well. I got all of those announcements, plus another story to share with you. It's practical application to get out of that story. I don't know where you are as you're watching this, but it is snowing here. So it is April 17th, and they're told us that we're going to get 3 to 6 inches of snow where I live. That is not a welcomed sight in April. It's really putting a damper on getting out and about. Just a couple weeks ago, we were having bonfires here, some more fires, and we are now far removed from that, even though we're going in the direction of spring and in the direction of summer. So we're hoping that the weather turns around and that we can get to spring, especially when you have a little hobby farm like we do. We've got animals that are eager to get out. They think that grass should be growing, and I think that grass should be growing with them. So we're on the exact same page. So pray about that. Well, good evening. Welcome once again to Nightly Nonsense, where we attempt to make some sense out of the nonsense. Sometimes it probably will appear to you that we make more nonsense out of the nonsense, but that is not what we are aiming to do. Let me give you a couple of announcements as we get started really quickly. The first one is we are excited to tell you that we are going to be starting, hopefully next week, introducing some of the people that you hear on a regular basis through Drash Ministries, Lakeview Community Church, and the rest of our affiliated ministries and churches. We're hoping to bring those people who have programs on and let them kind of share their heart for you, but also let them share why it is that they started the program that they started. We're also super excited tonight to announce to you that we, this afternoon, got a chance to interview Jason Gray, who's a Christian musician, artist. They told us that we were going to get a half an hour with him. He took over an hour to talk with us and share his heart with us. And that interview, it's an audio interview, is going to be played hopefully next week for you. We're going to let you know about that, but you're going to want to tune into that. It was a fantastic time of listening to Jason Gray share his heart with us. Now again, if you don't know who Jason Gray is, well, you might want to do a little bit of research. His latest CD, DVD, or wherever you buy it, Apple Music, is called Disorder, and it is a fantastic album for, well, quite frankly, where we are in today's world, the things that we're going through. So we were super excited to get that opportunity. Thank you to Timothy, who actually set that up. He emailed the agent and went really quickly, and all of a sudden we got some time this afternoon with Jason Gray, and we're excited to bring that to you. If you have ideas for us here on Nightly Nonsense, well, we would love to hear those ideas. So I'm going to pray. We're going to get started. We've asked again, and they have fulfilled. They've agreed to do that for us. Stephen and Melinda have another song for us tonight, and we hope that you're going to enjoy that. And then I will share with you a little object lesson, hopefully, tonight. Father God, we thank you for this time. We thank you for the fact that, Lord, you love us. And Lord, you are the God, whether it snows, rains, sunshines, or anything in between, you are always in control, even when it looks like our world is out of control. So Lord, we pray that tonight you would bring us, through the Holy Spirit, some peace and some joy, some comfort, some encouragement, maybe a laugh or two, and Lord, then also convict and challenge us. We want our lives to be changed. We want to be closer to you. Give us a desire to reach those around us. In your name, amen. Enjoy this song from Stephen and Melinda.
What fortune lies beyond the stars? Those dazzling heights too vast to climb. I got so high to fall so far, but I found heaven as love swept low. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down. Upward falling, spirit soaring. I touched the sky when my knees hit the ground. What treasure waits within your scars? This gift of freedom gold can't buy. I bought the world and sold my heart. You traded heaven to have me again. My heart beating, my soul breathing. I found my life when I laid it down.
Good. Hey, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Melinda, family, for that worship song. We hope that you're enjoying that. I hope that you let them know that you're enjoying that. If you like the music, please send us a message that we can send on to them that will encourage their hearts. That's important to us. We're excited to be teaming up with different people. Well, tonight on Nightly Nonsense, I want you to help me make some sense out of some nonsense. Some nonsense that I call crash site Christianity. You know, Jesus was familiar with crash site Christianity. He faced it all throughout his ministry, but especially at the end of his ministry. And I want to share a story, hopefully a little bit of a humorous story with you. And then I just want to pick it apart for just a second, give you some practicality, maybe challenge your thinking. You know, most of you who are watching know that I have the pleasure of living on my grandparents' farm. So I grew up here as kids, and I have a unique family. Sometimes, and almost always, that's a great thing. Sometimes that's a tougher thing. But a lot of us in my extended family, and remember, when I talk about extended family, my mom was one of 13 kids. So I have a bunch of cousins. I had the privilege of a lot of them living around us. Those that didn't live here full time, they would come out for the summer. But many of us went and grew up in the same church. And every Sunday, we would go to church, and it really was kind of this, all right, where are we going this Sunday? And we'd go to different cousins' houses, but most of the time, we wanted to end up at my grandparents' house. And if we didn't go right after church, my entire extended family met up here Sunday afternoons before we went to Sunday evening church. And at my grandparents' house, it was a hobby farm, and so there were horses and cows, and I have 50 acres of land, and there's more land that we can walk on, and often we as a family, we would take hikes, and we would do all kinds of different things. But one of the things that was important was that if we went to grandma's, or if we went to my aunt and uncle's, and we had not remembered to bring play clothes with us, well, that was important. Dirtying your Sunday clothes, your good clothes, was something that was frowned upon by our parents. They didn't have a lot of money to just go out and buy new clothes. And so we frequently would either sneak or bring clothes, anticipating that we were going to be able to go somewhere. But sometimes it didn't happen that way. We forgot, or we just didn't get it done. And so we would go, and then we had to worry the whole time we were out playing about our Sunday clothes. And on one such Sunday, we came up to my grandparents' house, and there was a bunch of cousins, and my aunt boarded a couple horses, and then her friend boarded a couple horses. And often on Sundays, she would go out riding, and when they got back from their ride, they would let us, as kids, use the horses for a little bit and go out and ride. And my cousin, one of my cousins, was way far and beyond experienced with horses than any of the rest of us. And one Sunday, we were waiting for my aunt to get back, and she got back, and we got the horses, and we came up with a brain trust idea of having a race. And my home there's a front field. It's not very long in nature, but it's long enough that you can have a pretty good horse race. And so we decided that sounded like a good idea. The problem was that there weren't as many horses as there was kids. And so my cousin, who again is very experienced and no doubt was going to win this race, decided that him and I would ride double. What a great moment. I was assured that I was going to be a part of winning this race. Bragging rights were there. And so we decided to get the horses all ready to go, which we did. But then it suddenly dawned on me, being the smarter of the two, that I had my Sunday clothes on. And I don't know the last time that you sat on a horse bareback, but it doesn't go very well with clothes. The horse hair and oil and sweat gets all over your clothes. It's hard to clean, and it's pretty messy. And riding double meant that this time that we weren't going to be able to use the saddle. We didn't have a big enough one for both of us. So we decided that we would ride it bareback. And I came up with the brain trust idea of riding on a blanket that would protect my clothes from getting dirty. Now, automatically, if you know anything about horses and you know anything about racing, you're already way ahead of me in this story and you know what's going to happen. But for those of you who don't, let me explain it to you in detail. We walked the horses down to the end of this small field, lined them up, and anticipated this race. And I was super excited, first for teaming up with my cousin that assured a win, second for just being on a horse. Most people know that I love horses, and being able to race. So we had one of our cousins who was not riding. She was going to say go, and certainly she did. So she said go, and off we took. And it was fantastic because within just a few feet we were ahead of everybody else. The rest of my cousins being a little bit more cautious and probably smarter, they took a little bit more time in this whole thing, and we just shot off, my cousin and I. And probably about, 50 yards into this race, I decided that it would be a fantastic time to look back at all of the people behind me. What a great opportunity to stick my tongue out and really give it to those who were not as blessed as I was to be going to win this race. So I turned myself and looked back behind me. Now, remember, I'm sitting on a blanket with my arms around my cousin who is holding on to the reins and kind of digging in with his knees, but he has me attached to him as if I was a growth on him. And as I turned around to flaunt my already assured win, something significant happened. The blanket started to move because it wasn't attached to the horse. We were sitting on it, and it was sitting on the horse. And as the blanket moved, my cousin knew we were in trouble, and I immediately sensed that I had made a mistake, so I attempted again to shift. Well, now the blanket is really moving, and it didn't take very long for both of us, me still attached to him, to fall to the ground, leaving our horse to run unmanned back to the barn. Now, again, falling off a horse at a pretty high speed is something to be concerned about. Most likely, the two of us ended up with a concussion that day that we didn't even know about. But as we laid on the ground, my cousin, who again was more experienced, was no longer worried about the fact that we weren't going to win the race. He was worried about what he knew to be true. There were 3 other horses running behind our horse. That meant those 3 other horses were still coming while we were on the ground. And it happens so quickly that you don't have a lot of time to change the trajectory of the horse. And so his instinct kicks in, and he immediately rolls us out of the way. And as it turns out, neither of us got ran over by a horse that day, but we laid on the ground. There's a crash site on my grandparents' farm. At that crash site, it is amazing what happens. Amazing that so many different things kick in that you and I can learn about. You know, we are coming out of the Easter season, and again, a crash site happened. Jesus died expectantly to him, but unexpectedly to those around. They were doing the exact same thing as I was. And they were enjoying the ride with Jesus. A win was assured. They were going to get to be part of the kingdom, most likely high in the kingdom. As a matter of fact, two of the disciples, their mom asked for them to be able to sit on the right hand and the left hand of God, so they knew that good things were in store for them. A win was assured. I want you to think with me back to the last time that a win was assured for you. I want you to think back to that promotion that you were going to get. You were assured of it. I want you to think about that person you were dating, that was going to be the one. The financial things that you were going to get for sure. The church position that was yours. The child you were going to have. I want you to think of something that you were assured that you were going to get. Just like I was assured of my win. You know, when a crash happens, all of a sudden, expectations that aren't met lead to disappointment. So a crash site involves so much disappointment. Not just for ourselves, but for those who are even associated with us. For those that are banking on us getting what we've expected. Those who are invested in us emotionally. Those who are invested in us physically, mentally, socially, even spiritually. Well, that brings about disappointment, doesn't it? You know, crash sites, once they happen, they have an incredible phenomenon on those around us. There's a natural tendency. You know, when my cousin and I, immediately when we're laying there on the ground, reactions happen within our other cousins. Some of them immediately took off and ran to get our parents. Some of them ran and immediately took off to get the horses. Well, some of them just kept racing because they didn't know how to stop the horse, or they didn't have time to be able to figure it all out and what was needed. But a few people, a couple, actually came to the crash sites. You know, when we have a crash site in life, those same things happen. That same phenomena happens around us. We lose our job, and all of a sudden, there are those who go to get help. They don't know what we need, but they know that somebody will know what they need. They call our pastor. They call good friends and say, hey, have you heard? And hey, you need to go and you need to take care of this person. They're not the person to take care of, or at least they think they're not the person to take care of what's going on. So they go and they get help. The problem is that in going and getting help, they assume that other people are going to take care of the fallen people. They leave the crash site to go get help. And the sad part is that some of those people, well, their mindset is right. The idea is right. They're going to go get help. But they never get help. They never get there. They get sidetracked with their own things, their own feelings, their own concerns. And they end up worrying more about themselves and whether they're going to get in trouble, or whether they should play a part, or even whether you and I deserve what happened. Listen, when you turn around on a horse and you have plans of rubbing it into all of your other cousins that you're going to win, you probably deserve to fall. But at that moment, is that what's important? To figure out who deserves it? And are you the one to figure that out? You know, there are others that just continue right on by, and they continue on with the race. You and I, we see those people, don't we? We didn't get the promotion, but somebody else did, and they go zooming by us, and they seemingly don't care about our feelings because they're enjoying their success. They're enjoying their moment. Why shouldn't they? Why should they care about what's happened to us when they got what they expected? You know, there are other people that are concerned with all the stuff around. Just like those of my cousins that were concerned about the welfare of the horses and where were the horses and making sure that that was all taken care of. And you know, there are always those people. They're concerned about everything around the crash sites but the crash sites. They're concerned with making sure that everything still goes the same. Like, you didn't get the promotion, but we want to make sure you're still working here. We want to make sure that everybody around here knows and understands why you didn't get the promotion, why everybody knows that this didn't happen for you or that. Man, they're just making sure that everything around the fringes is all right. But they're not making sure that the people at the crash sites are all right. Listen, then there's this other group of people, and it's always small in nature. While some are waiting for help, they went to go get help, call for help. While some are continuing on the race, seemingly oblivious to what's going on around them. While some are concerned with what's going around them, but what everybody else is doing and the welfare of everybody else who's been affected by this whole thing. There's a group of people that actually walk towards the crash site. They walk towards the crash site not with any thought of whether they're qualified to take care of two boys who have fallen off a horse. They're not concerned with whether they have the right tools, whether they have the right equipment, whether they have it all together to take care of the two boys that fell off the horse. They're concerned with the two boys that fell off the horse. You see, it's at that moment that you understand those who they love you for who you are, not for what you do. They love you and they just want to be with you. They're not there to condone what you did. They're not there to judge what you did. They're not there to figure out whether you deserved what you did, or they're there to be with you. And they just take care of you and they sit with you until the people who can really help you come. It doesn't take very long for parents to get to the middle of the field when they're worried about their kids. And so our parents came out pretty quickly, to make sure that everything was okay. And I want you to understand that in that moment, my parents were concerned with one thing. Was I okay? Man, they got it right and everything seems good. But something happens at a crash site. Once people realize that you're not going to die, you're not going to the hospital, but it's all okay. Well, then they start, and they have time to try to figure out what happened. And so they start thinking about and hearing about what happened. And then, you know what happens? People start making judgments. They start making lines. They start saying that, listen, you wouldn't have fallen if this wouldn't have happened, and you wouldn't have done this if this wouldn't have happened. And it's all truth. But it's funny how it happens, even within the Christian world, isn't it? Once we know that somebody is going to survive their fall, and we start placing blame, and we start trying to figure it all out, and all of a sudden, the things that are less important, well, those are the things that become important, and we start talking about that. We start having time to worry about that because we're no longer worried about the safety of people. We're no longer worried about their health. Well, now we can worry about the things that are far less significant. For instance, we can worry about whether our Sunday clothes got dirty. Out of this entire story, the thing that I remember the most is being very concerned about my Sunday clothes. The fact that falling off a horse and breaking arms and all of those things could have happened, the thing that overshadowed everything was I wasn't to get my Sunday clothes dirty. That was my whole point. That's why I went with the brain trust idea of having a blanket on a hot, sweaty horse. That doesn't make sense to anybody who knows how to ride a horse, but it makes sense to a kid who's trying to avoid grass stain and other things on his clothes, but wants to enjoy the ride. Sometimes the drive to enjoy the ride, to win, it stops us from thinking correctly. And a crash site, it's inevitable because the outcome, the destination, what we want outweighs some of the precautions. You know, there was a built-in stop sign in this whole story. That built-in stop sign was I had Sunday clothes on that weren't supposed to get dirty. And I just tried to find a way around that rule that was put there that would have stopped me from falling off a horse. You know, I think about my story, and I think about how it probably relates to your stories where you have been involved in a crash site of life. A Christian crash site, where all of these different things played out. You could tell me the people that walked away from you. You could tell me the people that continued on with life without you. You could tell me the people who walked toward you. You know them by name because that story it's just put into you. It's ingrained in who you are. You remember that story. You think about that and you wonder about it all the time, constantly. Thinking, what about those who walked away? What about those who did this? What about those? Hopefully, those that came to you, you've treasured them. Jesus endured this entire situation. He knows what it's like to have a crash site moment. Not because he failed, not because he sinned, because something happened to him that was going to allow you and I to have a future. It's going to allow you and I to have a relationship with his Father. But the same principles happened. There were those that ran away. They were disappointed. There were those who were continuing on as if nothing was wrong, nothing was happening. There were those who chose to walk towards Jesus. They didn't understand what was going on, and so inevitably they ended up walking away from him. They started out in the garden with him, but then when it was about them, they ended up walking away. But I want you to understand that at the end of it, what Jesus did was he forgave. He gathered all those people back up. Because what he was accomplishing was what was most important. He died for those people. You know, when we experience the emotions, the frustrations, the disappointments with ourselves and with other people at a crash site, it brings about a lot of things. But the most important thing that you can give somebody is forgiveness. I gotta tell you, my mom was not really concerned with my clothes. She was concerned that I was all right. There'd be time to worry about clothes at other moments, like when we made mudslides and things like that. But at this moment, what was most important wasn't just that I was okay, but that I knew I was okay. In a crash site in Christianity, are you allowing people to know that they're okay and it's going to be okay? Or once you know that they're okay, are you helping to thwart their it's going to be okay? Let me make it very clear that no amount of your words or anybody else's words are needed to be said for somebody to know that they made a bad choice. I didn't need anybody to tell me that it's a stupid idea to ride a horse with just a saddle blanket. I figured it out all by myself. What I needed to know was that my mom and my family, that they were going to still love me even though I made that stupid choice. We're quarantined. Some of you have had a lot of time to think about your past. Some of you have had a lot of time to think about the people in your past. Some of you have had a lot of time to think about the hurts in your past. I know that I've had that opportunity. We're challenged continually to get into our word and to see what God says about that. Maybe it's time for you and I to revisit some of the crash sites that we've been a part of. And to make sure that what is most important to us is that the people who have crashed, including ourselves, that they're okay. They're okay in their relationship with Jesus. They understand that he died for them. That they're okay in their relationship with us and other people. That they don't need excuses for why they did what they did or how they did what they did. What they really need is to just know that you're going to love them even though they got some grass stain on them. Even though they got muddied and even though they fell off the horse. Do the people around you know that if they fell doing something dumb, that you would run towards them, not away from them? That's my challenge to you. That's how we make sense out of nonsense. You know that crash sites create a lot of nonsense, a lot of hurt, a lot of disappointment, a lot of frustration, a lot of things. And somehow we've got to go through all the nonsense. And we've got to make some sense out of it. That's where we are right now. We are a country that is in a crash site moment. And you could choose to get upset with the people who are blaming other people. The people who are just trying to go on as if nothing's ever happened. The people who are trying to find the right help. But what really needs to happen is we need to walk towards the crash sites. And we need to think about what's most important, which is taking care of the people that are part of the crash site. I don't care how this virus got here, because it's really irrelevant at this moment. It's relevant if you want to blame people, but it's irrelevant to the person who has the virus. You can get mad about masks. You can get mad about all the different things that are going on with this. But it's irrelevant to the person who has the virus. You can quote all the facts about how flu is more deadly and everything else is more deadly, and you can even include the fact that more people die from abortion than all of these things put together. But that doesn't matter to the person who's at the crash site of coronavirus. What matters to that person is they have the coronavirus. What should matter to us is that they have the coronavirus. What are you doing? Are you walking towards the crash site? Are you walking away from the crash site? It says a lot about you as a Christian. It says a lot about me as a Christian. If I'm being honest, I would tell you that there are times where I've walked away from crash sites on purpose because I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to get dirty from the sites. I didn't want to have any involvement with it. Sometimes probably because you think that the person who crashed, they deserved it. Sometimes because you just simply didn't care. Sometimes because you didn't know what to do. There's a story, and let me end with this, of the Good Samaritan. Three men walked by a gentleman that had been beaten up by bandits, left for dead. Two of them were religious in nature. They found a reason to walk away from this man when he was in obvious need. Didn't want to get their hands dirty. Somebody was better off helping them. Whatever it was. Well, one man who wasn't religious in nature stopped and he helped. He bound the man up. He did what he could do. And then he took him to an inn and turned him over to the care of people who could take better care of him and said, listen, here's some money for this, and when I return, I'll pay you whatever else it took to take care of this man. I don't think this man looked at the beaten and bruised man and asked if he deserved it. I don't think he looked at him and asked if he deserved having help. I don't think he looked at him for anything other than a man who had a problem, and he was there for such a time as this to take care of that problem. May God give you the ability to make sense out of the nonsense around you and to be sense for those who are part of Crash Sites. Listen, I hope that you've gotten something out of my little object lesson. I hope that you can relate to it. You just plug in for the horses, whatever it is that you've done, wherever it is that you've been. But let me tell you something that's going to make a difference in our world. Rather than walking away from crash sites, if we started walking towards the crash sites of life, not to fix, to simply be and to help. That is what God is looking for. God is also looking for you and I to admit that we not only have the capability of having our own crash site, but we have. And when we needed it, Jesus didn't walk away, he walked towards. You see, when everybody else was walking away from lepers and the sick and the blind, Jesus was walking toward them. Be Jesus to those around you. Can I pray for you tonight? Thanks for listening. Father God, we thank you for this moment that we've had together. Thank you for the fact that you are the God of crash site moments. Lord, you never, ever, ever leave us, forsake us, walk away from us to get better help. You don't continue on without us. You don't leave us for dead. You come to us. We're grateful for that. Lord, that is what the people around us need. That is what we need. Give us the humility to admit that we need you, and then give us the ability to let you help us. Give us the ability to believe that you will love us even with grass-stained Sunday clothes. Your name, amen. Hey, thanks for listening. I hope that you got something out of this. I pray that you would respond to us, that you would let me know that you're listening to us, that you give us some insight, some feedback. We don't want to just add one more thing to your day. We want to actually know that what we're doing is being of a help to you. So please do us a favor. It only takes a second to click like or to give us a comment or to tell me, hey, I didn't understand that story. Whatever it is that you need, we want to be there for you. Also, want to remind you that we have some people that have been very generous. They want to hand out Bibles. They want to hand out devotionals. They want to do Bible studies. They want to help you out. So if you're in need or you know somebody who is in need, listen, if you have a desire to give someone the gift of a Bible or a devotional or just somebody to talk to, please, 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 please let us know. That is what Drash Ministries exists. We want to team up with you with what you are doing. Thanks for joining me tonight for Nightly Nonsense, where we try to make some sense out of some nonsense.